It's the Russell Wilson School with development.
It's not fixable, but
Let's look around.
lunch break, everyone, and we are heading into the status report that Cheryl will be handling.
Okay, thank you. So we are at item number 26.7.10, and it is on page 223. Yeah.
Good.
My name is Adele Ayers. I think most of you would have already seen me, but I'm the new projects manager team leader, placing Patrick's role. I take it that all the reports have been read, and we are welcome to ask any questions.
Anybody got any questions?
Yeah, just give me a.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just doing this too.
Okay, just in relation to the Bridge Hill and Enterprise Street work. A continuation of the work that was done last year, or is that? Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we do a lot of that work last year?
Yeah, that contract's been, well, it's not until its 12th month, so it's
Yep.
actually just finished. So, yeah.
Yeah, but that's this here is just that it's just the finalisation of that same project, or is this a new project altogether?
It's the finalisation of that project.
Oh, that's
so
right.
we basically 99% completed that project. We're just doing the last part of the handovers and completion documentation. So next time around, this project will be dropping off the status reports because it's basically done.
Okay, and the second question is, you mentioned in the what that there was out of scope, stuff that was done out of scope. What's the overspend?
I'll let Josh explain that, but I get in a nutshell, there were some additional items that had to be done for the reservoir works and some additional tank farm that had to be built. So not necessarily out of scope, but it's a few of the smaller projects that had to be done as part of renewals that were just brought into this project because it was easier to complete it within this existing project, but you probably a bit more across on the details.
Yeah, it was tendered as a measure and value contract. So we encountered a lot of rock up on Bridge Hill, obviously. So we had provisions in the contract, but the quantities increased quite a lot. And the reinstatement of pavement servicing, so all of those quantities get scheduled sort of increased. So it's the majority of what you said.
There's been some additional
Yeah,
work done as well.
it's the reservoir. So yeah, originally it was replacement of the old concrete line steel pipe. We also added in new falling main and upgrades to the existing reservoir. So yeah, that work was sort of included in that project to sort of bring forward resilience and upgrades.
It wasn't done, that 630 wasn't done within the.
It was done within the overall.
It was done.
Yes, within the
Okay.
overall budget that we
Sorry,
had.
my apologies, I did not.
Yeah.
Didn't quite get that. Okay.
A specific project, it shows as an overrun, but it is within budget within their overall renewables budgets.
Sorry, yeah, that's my apologies. I've missed that when that understanding. Yeah. Okay, and it's me.
This one, quite a good update, as of yesterday, is quite an important milestone that we've reached with the Cromwell water treatment plant. And we have gone into supply, which just means that our Cromwell is now receiving water from our new plant and the old plant has been taken offline. So it will happen, we'll have a trial period for the next 14 days until it will then be handed over to the operational team. So it was quite a big milestone yesterday.
Do you just notice any difference?
I don't really think you'll notice much of a difference in basically taste. The two reservoirs are still filled up with water from the old plant, but still compliant plant. So I guess it will take a little bit of time for that to circulate through the reservoirs and into the network. So I don't really think there will be a massive difference that the public will notice. This is just from a project side. We notice quite a difference because we've been working on it for the last 3 years.
We still have to lime and everything working.
You will still have to line
not
up,
magic.
unfortunately. Yes, you will.
I asked the question about 3 months ago, actually, whether that would change anything. I think Patrick answered the question. Said,
Yeah.
no, it's not going to change.
No, unfortunately not, but it is better water. It just, the lime is unfortunately not something that can be removed easily.
Just in relation to Ranfurly, and I just see that that in the compliance side that the elevated total suspended solids have been the sludging. Is that the increase? Is that a normal
Yes.
thing to happen when you do the desludging?
Yes, it would be because, well, I mean, we've done the desludging for the pond itself, and then we've done desludging for the actual wetland too, and we had to replant the wetland, so it does take a bit of time for to settle. We are also monitoring that over the next probably 6 or 7 months, because as you replant the wetlands, you have to control the levels of the wetlands as well, and you also have to give the plant some time to establish. So it is going to take a few months to correct itself, but it is actively being monitored. But yes, that is something that is expected. You go.
Just going back to the Cromwell one, and with the motor control centre, of course it's got there. We had a series of conversations with the neighbours and that sort of stuff. Generally, they're comfortable with the way that's now sitting in the ground and that sort of stuff.
Yes, we haven't heard any further complaints, but I think they're pretty happy to date. With the buildings now, the majority of the buildings covering the board head structures and the MCC, it does actually look pretty good. And I think they are happy to see it progressed to the stage, because it has taken some time for them to just see ugly pipe work and not actually seeing what it's going to be covered with. They are happy. We have been in communication with them quite consistently throughout the project. So I think they're pleased to see that it's not an ugly building covering the board heads, and we have done a bit of work around making it aesthetically pleasing, and then installing some planting.
Yeah.
So generally they are happy.
Planting looks really quite good, and the buildings I think are not quite as high as I originally thought they were going to be. Pretty horrendous, but they're not quite that bad. So it has softened, I think, a lot.
And
Yeah.
also the colour of the cladding of the buildings
Yeah.
sort of like blends in with the surroundings. So
Yeah.
yeah. So it does actually it looks really good if you're driving from Alex to Cromwell, and you can see the MCC building from side of the lake.
Yeah, and people were quite concerned that they would lose that area down by the lake, but it's not. They've still got access, so it isn't actually. It's not as intrusive as perhaps originally thought.
One of the board head building at the top of the terrace that there's some temporary pipe work sticking out that they have complained previously that it's leaking and all those things, but just temporary work. So it sort of like has a air relief valve on it, so you can expect water to come out of it, because that's the purpose of it. So because the old treatment plant is now offline, it is scheduled actually for tomorrow to go in and remove that temporary pipe work. And then we will install the new bore pump into that bore and start doing the cladding of that building. So things are progressing. It's actually quite a good stage that we are in with this project, because it's wrapping up nicely.
I think that was the worst part of the whole thing.
Yes.
It was quite ugly.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, you can't really see inside the building. It's not completely covered, but there's a bit of a 20mm gap in between the cladding. So you can see there's something in it, but you can't actually see. It does look quite good. Put some of the surroundings.
Come along nicely. So any other questions?
Probably just to note, this was a $15 million project. And we're
Yes.
in the final stages.
Yes.
Not only does it make our water compliant for those people that live now, but for all many thousands of people we know are looking to come to that basin, and it does free up capacity for that future growth. So, great work, team.
Thank you.
Yeah, nearly there.
Okay, so the recommendation is that we receive the report and the contents noted. So do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Sarah and Charlie? All those in favour? Against? Carried.
Thank you. We are now moving to page 233 of your agenda, so we can talk about the community outcomes and the time, which might be unknown to you. We have at least a few times before, but Rebecca is looking for to carry forward with them. Fill us in, Rebecca.
Thank you. So as part of any long-term plan process, the council's given the opportunity to check in with the community aspirations to ensure that the council is delivering upon the services which the community desires. CODC conducted a piece of work as part of the 2024-34 long-term plan around called Shaping Tomorrow Together, which was to go out to the community in a comprehensive research project to ask what was important to them about living here now and into the future. And I've reattached the data that came from that report, that work to the report. It articulated a 50-year vision for Central Otago, which was then used to develop community outcomes for that last long-term plan. In March this year, we had a public workshop where we were sort of asking for a bit of a steer on whether you wanted us to re-engage with our community or whether that data still was valid enough to continue us into this long-term plan. And this report really is to seek confirmation that the data is still good. And we will through, as part of the budgeting process, be seeking resourcing to ensure that the data is refreshed for the next long-term plan, which I think is 2030, 2040, which is a bit scary thought. And we are using those community outcomes throughout the organisation, and we're doing that increasingly more so. So you've seen it in the play strategy, you've seen it in the economic development strategy. Tomorrow we're having a workshop with the asset managers about their activity management plans and how to ensure that those community aspirations are articulated through all those documents so that we remember why it is we do what we do. When we're building new water systems and processing plants, we remember why. And so that's quite exciting. And I think today it was really lovely to hear MB talk about our documents and to see that line of thread through what we do and how we make our communities welcoming is not by chance, it's intentional. So that was quite a nice affirmation. Plus, sitting with all those community organisations that also contribute to those outcome areas, it's not all on us. And so that's really what I've got to say as an opening, is just to seek your endorsement of those community outcomes for inclusion in the next long-term plan. And as a separate piece, we'll be coming back to renew them in the following.
Any questions on these? Good. Reflective of our community, seem appropriate unless anybody sees anything different. There's happy to move that. Tracy will second it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Adopted. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Sorry, Rebecca.
We now move to our financial reserves policy on page 269. Welcome.
Thank you.
For somebody to put the reserves, because
I'm going to ignore that. This is in relation to an expired policy. It's an internal suite of policies that guides staff and management in the use of various financial reserves. The policy is effectively
one of the last things that we need to do in relation to districtisation. And you'll note that throughout the policy, it talks about effectively combining activities into an overarching group of activities. For argument's sake, swimming pools, because they're all funded at district level now, we can group the reserves and both operating and capital reserves at a district level, so we don't necessarily need to have individual reserves for each individual swimming pool. That will allow us to use funds better, which means that things like pools that are coming up soon for replacement or repair can be funded through the use of these reserves rather than waiting until their individual reserve is topped up to a certain level. Effectively, it gives the ability for every activity to have their day in the sun when it comes to time to do the work on, rather than actually delaying until their reserves are topped up. So I'm going to take the report as read with that little bit of an explanation, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. One of the things that we find is that our financial reserves and details when people look online is really difficult to understand. Do you think that this will help if the general public were to log on and have a look at our reserves and our tables that come through, that it will help make that easier to follow?
I think that it's probably going to be the same level of explanation required, because it is a complicated it's a complicated system that we run in terms of we rate, we spend money, we have surpluses or we have deficits, we have to do something with those surpluses or deficits. They invariably, at the moment, for an operating perspective, go into our retained earnings reserve. So it gets lumped in there. Whereas if you are running I think it will be a little bit more transparent than we currently run, but it will still be difficult to explain that, and we need to work out how we can do that.
Any other questions? So it would be good to get this one cleared up and start that process, especially since the polls is one that just keep coming up again. Can I have a mover and a second? Tracy and Andrew, those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Paul. Up next, we are talking adoption of the 2026 to 27 annual plan. Welcome, Leah, to join.
So, as just mentioned, this is for the 26-27 annual plan. The draft of this was brought to the March meeting so that we could get our LTP budgeting underway. And not much has changed since that March version was provided. There have been some minor amendments and some very key information from the finance team, which has been added so that everything ticks all the final boxes. And what you will see is that the annual plan has an average rates increase of 6.34%, which is a reduction from the forecast rates increase of 7.26% from the LTP. That is due to a mixture of things, so including some changes to capital programming, as well as the use of operational reserves to reduce the impact on rates. What you will see is there are a couple of changes in the fees and charges from the March version. So that includes a couple of new services. So 3D printing in the libraries has been charged, and we've ensured that we've got some fees and charges in there relating to printing and binding that is a service provided in the Ranfurly Service Centre. And we've got the new property file charge as well that was discussed in March. Also in there are the Te Puna Mahara Cromwell Events Centre fees and charges, which have previously been reviewed by both the Cromwell Community Board and Council. The annual plan includes some key projects. So the replacement of Bridge 145 in Maniatoto, as well as the Roxburgh Entertainment Centre reinstatement planning. And this year we'll see the construction of the Oakhow hubs continue, and Tapuna Mahara will of course open in a few weeks' time.
Okay.
Anything to add, Paul?
Yeah, if I can, there is also, as part of the fees and charges, bulk water charges. Now, there is, the council asked for, we were going to put a paper to council this month in relation to potentially changing those, because we've had some feedback from people who are on bulk water supplies. And Julie was going to put a paper up, but she ran out of time. So she's going to put that paper up in July. So we're going to adopt the annual plan as it is now. Hopefully we adopt the annual plan as it is now with the fees and charges bulk water as it was. The paper will then come in July. We will then amend the fees and charges to reflect whatever the council decides at that time, and effectively retroactively charge the bulk water charges on whatever you decide to do. So there will be a small change potentially in July, depending on the outcome of that paper. The only changes, and Amelia's mentioned it, we had the financials, we didn't have the rates, we had the revaluation come through. Most of the revaluations have been settled now. So we can produce the rates, and that's the major change from the finance perspective, is we've included the rates and the sample properties, etc., in the annual plan.
I think it might be chocolate fish time. If we look at page 422, where you've got fees and charges for environmental services, I think you've got 2025-26 and 2026-27 reversed.
Oh. Environmental services was that?
Yep.
A reduction in fees. Excellent.
It's right on the version. So column with blue should be 26-27, or are you or do you think there are
It's cheaper.
numbers?
Anyway,
Cheaper.
it's all gotten cheaper, and if that's the case, that'll be great. But let's just check.
There are Oh, of those ones. Okay, so I was going to say, I'm looking at these and thinking, hazardous waste has gone up, and
They've just been reversed, haven't they?
the wheelie bin charges.
So no, the electronic waste. Some of those have come down.
You know,
haven't
if
they?
you look at the top section there.
Are you looking at the same page on
Electronic waste, was that? Sorry, I'm
Yes,
just in
page 422?
Page 422.
Oh, yes. No, yes, they have reduced.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, the solid waste team did did a review of the charges, and they have
So
Cheap, but the
it's
recycling.
actually around, so portion of that cost is actually covered through the waste levy because it promotes
Oh, okay.
that, and we're wanting to promote disposal of electronic waste in an appropriate mechanism, being through that collection. So through waste levy, the transport from the site is managed, but there's also additional subsidy just to ensure it's attractive for reduction and people doing the right thing with their electronic waste.
It's really exciting that if you have got a surplus of computer keyboard mice, you can now go and recycle them for free. And there's not much you can do for free these days, but you can go to the service centre and recycle your mouse.
It doesn't actually say computer keyboard mice, it just
No, it
says
says
mice.
mice. You can- I nearly did one, not like one. Tracy.
Well done to the team for the, because that's really good. So thank you. You know, you've heard what our table, what our community has said. So that's really positive. I do have a couple of questions. One, just in relation to the additional fees and charges that we don't potentially know about for Tapuna Mahara. Is that where that's okay to do that? Like that's not going to be an issue for us to, as things arise, we can make those changes. Okay, cool.
I will caveat that there's a period of time, you can't just suddenly start
Yeah.
charging. You give them
No,
a
just,
month's notice, yeah. So any new charges you can introduce, it's not like rates.
yeah, okay. No, that's cool. And The other thing that I've got a bit of an issue with, and I'm not sure who's going to answer this, because it may not be you guys to answer this, might be over there or over here. Just when you're looking at the changeover from for the water side of things, there's a 6-month difference between some areas of the community going to $2.40 to the others. Now that's
simply because of the way we read the meters, and we literally can't read all the meters on day one. And so that's why there is that lag, and the lag was last year as well.
Yeah.
And we got ourselves into a spot of bother with the communication that went out around that. To address that, we addressed that back then in the second year. That's the reality, because literally you would have to close off all the water accounts and do a complete meter read in the entire district. Base for the 1st of July. We don't have a version for that. Scheduled inspection dates are indicative in the months that they're happening, and then the new billing will occur.
Yeah, that is actually a rating issue, because the volumetric charges a rate. So in the rating resolution, you'll note the next paper that we set due dates for all rates, and we have to set due dates for reading dates for water. And as the Chief Executive just said, there is no way that we can read all of those in effectively 1 month. So we have to spread them, and that's why when it came from effectively when we were at 60 cents, and when we set the resolution for 60 cents, so it'd be 2 years ago, that was for a 12-month period. So we already had a resolution on the books for the 60 cents at 12 months, which then translates when we went to $1.60, we had to do the same thing, and we will have to do the same thing when we go to $2.40, if that's what you want. The only time that will change then is obviously when Southern Waters takes over, and they are not bound by the same legislation as we are in terms of rating act, the rating act. So that's why it happens.
Yeah, just there's a 6-month period seems excessive for some people who are going to be copying it right at the start to the end. And is it a resourcing issue?
No, we have 3 meter readers, but that's full time reading the meters on the frequency that we have. We'd have to dramatically increase the numbers to get across the whole district to read it. It's just one of them.
What's designed to do is so that everybody who are on water meters gets 12 months at the particular rate. So go through the first read round for next year will be at the old rate, because they would have only had 2 read rounds in this current year at the old rate. So it's designed to make sure that everybody gets 1 year at the particular rates. Nobody's getting being charged. I guess you'd say that nobody's getting on average charge, because obviously if you're using more in the summertime as opposed to the 3 months of 3 or 4 months of the winter time, there could be a bit of a lag there, but everybody will get charged at $1.60 for 12 months. So it means that we've got to go into the new financial year and do the first lot or the last lot of readings effectively at $1.60, so that they get that 12-month thing.
If you were one of the last reads to be onto the $1.60, you'll stay at $1.60 for 12 months before you become $2.
Yeah, so effectively the October reads next year would have been read in October this financial year. So it's still 12 months. Otherwise, the way we were looking at before we looked at the rates resolution, it would have meant that some people would have cut off at 1 July and started on the new rate, and they would have had a lesser at the old rate, which wasn't fair.
Going through the whole replacement of all the meters. In the next 5, 6, 7 years of their life, the next round of water meters will probably be the ones that have the data, and that's instantaneous.
Makes sense.
Just not there yet.
When the
Like,
technology's
there,
there.
but we just didn't want to push permanent. What is that for the water entity to resolve?
Since Curtis is not here to explain it, Paul, I wondered if you wanted to cover off why Teviot Valley Ward's grants say 000 on page 4.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just because it's not that they have no grants.
No, they have built up reserves for grants. and that they are using those reserves to fund the grants, so they still will have the same level of grants, but they're not rating for them in the next year because they have sufficient money to cover what they want to put through as grants.
Thank you. And I just wanted to acknowledge the really substantial amount of work that has gone into this, because when we put together our long-term plan last year, we were anticipating a 7.26% rates increase per year to the long-term plan. But you have managed to shave that with some direction down to an average of 6.34. And we don't love averages because some people will be above that and some people will be below that. But that is a mechanism that our communities, I guess that it's easier for them to understand that average when you're looking at it, especially when you're comparing us to others. We do recognise that there is still some way from the government's incentive rate cap of 2 to 4%, and that is us heading in the right direction towards that lower rate. But from what I can find thus far, recognising that I think everybody has now struck their rates for this year, is that I do believe that is the lowest increase out of all of the territorial authorities in Otago and Southland and Timaru as well, because I checked them too. So it's really good effort by the team because costs have only been going in one direction. And I want to acknowledge those councillors that were here last term, because a big reason that we're in this position is because we went out early with a horrendous 18% and then followed it up with about a 12 point something. And I think we did actually manage to get in front of some of those costs. And I remember you made comments at the time, Sarah, like, hey, you were the one that was going to be punished by that, but it was the right thing to do for the people of today and the people of tomorrow. And I really want to acknowledge the effort that's gone in the team to get us to this point, which includes our councillors team, because there is a lot of heat coming on us from all directions. And we do want to recognise that community costs for everything have been going up and up and up, and there is very limited ability for people to control their household bills, and rates is one of them. So thank you all for getting us, nearly a whole percentage down from where we thought we would be in the current market is awesome. And if we want to keep going in that direction, there'll be more difficult conversations to come in the long-term plan next year about what our community wants to prioritise and what they don't. But well done to you guys. Does anybody else have a comment or anything that they wanted to note or at this time? Perfect.
Yeah, I did. And actually, it's me, obviously, the way I've been reading things. However, in your message on the end plan, Madam Mayor, where you say in July we will transition 835 kilometres to the NEC. We say we, that's the four councils, not just our council. 15 treatment plants, 4 bore fields and 4 surface water plants. That's the whole, that's all 4, isn't it?
No, that's us. That's
just about
treatment plants because that's water plus wastewater.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
And we do have 4. So yes.
Okay, that's just us.
We've got a lot of stuff.
Just double checking.
Yeah. Thank you. Right. Recommendations are on page 277, A through D. I'm happy to move it. If I can have a seconder, please. Thank you, Sarah. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. We are now moving to the setting of the rates. 463, we're moving to. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you. After just listening to the last discussion, I'll take the paper as read and just make a comment that this has been past legal review and we have made the tweaks that they have recommended. Yes.
Part B to the paper before, isn't it?
Yes, that is the very important one.
It is the very important one, and we have been caught out by this before in previous years. So I am pleased to see all of the details in there and not see excitement so that we can go through them all. I take it that you both and Peter are all very comfortable that those are all the right figures, numbers, everything in there.
Yeah, as Donna said, we've had it reviewed by our legal person, Jonathan Salter. And he suggested a couple of things that needed to change, and we've done that. We do comply with 30% rate cap as well. We're at 29.7, something like that. So we are within the cap. Just want to make sure that the council see that there are actually A, B, and C. C is buried way within the body of the resolution, and we have, as you've said, Madam Mayor, we have changed it to list the entire rates as part of the resolution rather than having it as an attachment.
Right, and C is on page
470.
370, and that is to set out the due dates and the penalties is what C covers. Right, any questions?
Move.
Lucy?
Speaking.
Thank you, Martin.
Well, they're all coming after you today, the old people.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Thank you very much.
You said put them.
And you can remain there as we move into the financial report for the period ending 30th of April.
Off.
So take this paper as being read. So this report is for the financials as at 30 April 2026. So for the 10 months of the financial year, the council had an overall unfavourable operating variance of 4 million. With this, so there is an operating surplus of 13.7. So income continues to be unfavourable. Our main contributors are still there. So our development contributions and also our land sales, they will stay there for the rest of the financial year. We haven't received as much income from our developers as we expected, and also the land sales you've been well. Outside of that, other revenue is a little bit behind because of the timing. So we're looking at getting the funding for the Cromwell Museum fit out project, and we received the full insurance payout for the Roxbury Entertainment Centre in May. So this is not in the report, but we received the $6 million for the insurance claim. Expenditure has a favourable variance of 964,000. So finance costs, other expenses, and the cost of land sales are lower than budget, with depreciation continuing to be higher than budget. The financial costs are lower. This is due to cash flows being used for uplifting external debt, with external debt being more expensive than using internal cash flows. And it is being uplifted as the capital projects progress. We also have a few projects, especially in the water space, which have been forecasted out of this financial year and carried forward as an annual in the year 26-27. So that does also impact the cost of our debt as well. So any additional cash flows sit in the reserve will be used to offset debt in that respect. So we're not going to be uplifting any more than we actually need in those accounts to transfer through to the Southern entity. And so capital expenditure has a favourable variance. You could say it's favourable or not favourable. 8.5 million unspent as it may. April, sorry, with 65% of the total budget being spent. As at May, it's sitting at 73% completion for the capital expenditure program. The total external debt is currently at 85 million. We are doing an uplift of another 11 million for the end of the financial year, which will bring us to 96 million, 30 June 2026. Southern Water's loan is slowly increasing, and we are looking at a balance of about $1 million as at April. And as that picks up, it will quite quickly, I would say. And we will continue to manage it through internal cash flows until such time we need to uplift debt for it as well. Are there any questions?
Did one the pools, parks and cemeteries that has 830k areas on depreciation? Is that entirely from the estate, or is any of that being picked up from
There will be a
park
mixture
facilities?
of the pools and actually the parks. So the parks are only revalued every 5 years, and so they were revalued on the 30th of June 2025. And of course, we weren't able to get that forecast of that increase of that revaluation into the long-term plan. So, but it is very much a mixture of all the assets within parks, pools, and cemeteries.
And hopefully printed these out in a larger form for us so we can see. The financial dashboard is a really great mechanism to be able to look at for all of those watching online and who would like to actually be able to cover it through in, you know, a transparent way to see where we're at, to see the dashboard in its entirety. And also probably the big one I note for this one is our LGFA funding, where we thought we would be and where we're actually at, thanks to managing the number of mechanisms internally. So I think that is a good way to do it, because we're uplifting external debt as a last resort. The appropriate. You're doing questions? We also really highlights how much of our debt is in the water space. The vast majority.
Yeah, out of the 96, about 76, so just under 7.5% sits in space. We related swaps that go with that as well. So,
Perhaps on the CapEx, and I think that last presentation from Adele, gosh, starting to accelerate the spend and some of that CapEx. So it's 73 now, might get close to 80 perhaps by the end of this financial year in terms of CapEx.
Possible. It's sort of with the timing of the financial year finishing and us being able to uplift and recognise in the financial year, and when the invoices actually come in for the capital expenditure, we have a bit of lag, and which means that there is the new financial year for any debt that needs to be uplifted for this year's expenditure.
Will be good, because that was a priority from last year, was to increase that percentage. So pleasing to see. Right. If there's no questions, I'm happy to move that the report be received. Thank you, Tracy. All those in favour? Again, carried.
Thank you.
And we welcome back Amelia, because there is a revision to the risk acting.
What a fun stuff. Dance. Some of you will remember that back in February we did a workshop on risk appetite, and from that I have revised the risk appetite statement, and that went to the Audit and Risk Committee in June, and their recommendation was that Council adopts the revised appetite statement. So some of the changes that have been introduced, the key one is that the scale of risk appetite has been amended. So it was previously very low to very high. We've actually changed that appetite to be more qualitative. So it actually now goes from averse to open. And there are only 4 categories of risk appetite, so no one can sit in the fence down the middle. So that was one of the major changes. And in the review in the workshop in February, we did make some changes to the categories. So we split the category of people and health and safety into people on its own and health and safety on its own. And then we also changed some of the risk appetite. So whilst the majority did stay the same or the equivalent, what we've done is change the category of reputation and relationships. That moved from cautious to reasoned. So that was an increase in appetite. And that reflects the fact that we are in a difficult environment and difficult decisions will need to be made. And we've got more appetite for making the right decisions and being fiscally responsible than we have for ensuring that reputations are priority list. The financial sustainability risk appetite category was also changed, and this is quite a significant change. It moved from the equivalent of averse to reasoned, and that reflects that we are willing to take reasoned risks in relation to growth and ensuring that we can achieve that strategic priority of council, which is funding. So that kind of recognises where we are as a district and where we want to be going forward. But it probably should be noted that the financial operations risk category did stay down in that first section. Those were the main changes. Questions on risk appetite?
Or do you feel like they were all answered at the workshop? That probably does give a little bit more clarity of not having those kind of on fence options. You're either or against it. And reasons, I think, are against too.
We saw it as audit and risk, so I think it was a positive sort of step to move it towards that.
Risk have recommended that we adopt it. Bob, you're happy to move that? Thank you. Seconded Nathan. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And then we can look at the key risks as our next report, please, from page 512.
This report, you will have noticed that because we update quarterly, you've had a fairly stagnant report for the last few months, which was exacerbated by the time difference between our audit and risk committees. So we had one in February and then waited all the way till June for the next one. So this has now been updated. That's the positive news. It's hot off the presses. The less positive news is that we are seeing some increase in risk exposure. So we have 3 risks that did increase this quarter: failure of meeting obligations to iwi, changing regulatory and legislative environment, and operational delivery against LTP. And these are all massively externally driven. So as we all know, there are some significant changes happening in local government as a result of central government reform, and that is starting to have some significant impacts on our ability to deliver, as well as just our ability to absorb and respond to that change as well. Risks do remain the same: free waters and affordability and financial sustainability.
Surprise, although we might be able to drop off a key risk in coming months once Te Puna Mahara Cromwell Centre is open.
Yes,
It will be exciting.
absolutely.
Did anything come out of the risk meeting in relation to that? But recommendation that the report be received and its contents noted. Cheryl and Tracy. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Yes, report. And Wayne makes me write it so far in advance, I can't even remember what it said. So I won't jabble up. It's been another full-on couple of weeks across the district. And some key issues. We continue to look through the rates review, which is already generating quite a lot of interest locally, and we're going to put out our consultation document yet. But I see there has been a bit going around in the community that people think that a differential of 2 for commercial businesses would mean that commercial businesses would pay double their rates, but that is actually not the case. And when our proposal document that has all the options comes out to the public alongside the calculator, those businesses alongside residents will be able to hop online and see what it might mean for them. And also the wider aspects of the different options. They're also not necessarily hard and fast options. So they might be, we go out with 3 options and people say, well, we're not quite that far along, but we think it was in the middle between A and B or B and C. So there is the ability for that to change. Discussions continue around local government reform and potential future models. Thank you very much to the nearly 500 people from Central Otago District who submitted to the Mary online survey. Per capita, that was the highest turnout, but as I noted a couple of times now, including in public, that the number of responses, which was around 1,800, is not even every person who works for so if we can't even get all the people who work to be interested enough to submit, I think that does kind of tell maybe how interested our community are. No doubt they will be very interested in any potential proposal that we were to put through, recognising that it would also be consulted on next year when the law changes. The latest feedback that we had yesterday from the Minister is that there actually won't be any detail on what the backstop process is until mid next year. The thing that it is mostly is similar to the announcement that they made prior to Christmas, which was the combined territories boards where regional councils are gone, and then the mayors or a community representative from each of the councils forms a board that delivers the regional council functions, maybe with or without a Crown committee. So we've kind of got a bit of an idea, but it's not. So still working through that, and I have spoken to the team about some community engagement sessions in person in the first week of July, the week beginning 6th of July. So if any of you are able to assist me with those, that would be greatly appreciated. It will be a lot of saying people what we do know, what we don't know. Regional deal negotiations continue, and we hope to have something to bring to council shortly for review. And there's Task Force for Jobs as a vote this month because Craig is on holiday. Still on social media where younger people have been posting about looking for work and for jobs, and other people, not always me, have been saying, have you gone to the council, have you spoken to Mayor's Task Force for Jobs? So it's getting out there, and I think that's really neat. And then I just wanted to say a huge thank you to the team, because it is a really quite pressured environment at the moment to deliver what we need to deliver. And also thanks to our communities. We are asking you to be across a huge amount of content at the moment, with consulting, submitting, attending, feeding into our processes, alongside our friends at the Regional Council. And I do have to give a plug for Civil Defence Emergency Management Community Resilience Survey, which is currently open. They would so no shortage of big issues on the table, but we do have a sense of momentum at the moment, and I think this council is in a really strong position to be looking forward to the future in the next few months and continue to work hard for our communities. That is my report. I'm happy to move it. Thank you, Tracy. Seconding. Those in favour? It's carried. Governance report from page 519. Was anything of note, Wayne?
We've got an update from that.
Management.
Yeah.
If we could just have a couple of minutes.
Okay. Yep, please. We would love to hear that.
It's Cones.
In some instances.
So you'll have seen the email that Wayne flipped through late last week on my behalf. So a bit of an update. We're sort of well into launching into transition into the risk-based process. So obviously I see some real benefits there, both from a cost perspective, but also a travelling interruption perspective as well too. But I will put a caveat on that. It'll be on some types of work on the network, and I think I may have highlighted that in the email as well too. I think some of the larger scale works, resurfacing sites, rehabilitation sites, roads, I think you'll see some level of traffic control, but our minor low volume roads, I think there's some real scope to reduce what's happening rather than having 100 kilometre traffic management setups or contracts will be able to assess the risk. So I'm working quite closely with Fulton on what it looks like at the moment. I think it's probably going to be
to see the real benefits, probably a 6-month transition. So we did that with QLDC, that provided some good cost savings to both councils, but also has provided some really good consistency across guidelines and procedures. So pretty much their guidelines are identical to ours. Very, very minor differences in the way they're going to be operating, which makes that easy for consultants, TTM companies and contractors going forward. So yeah, quite exciting new times. Yeah.
And there was just one edit to one of those documents was addressed around, it was called a policy guidelines or policy guidance. It is just a guidance document. It's not a policy. And so following this, these will go up on our website as guidance documents for developing and submitting plans and everything like that through council.
Any questions?
Running events and traffic management plans for that, do you see these changes making any differences there?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. And again, it depends on the location as well too. If we're on our busy roads like Barry Ave and things like that, it might be a similar level. And probably the Blossom Festival on the State Highway, but I mean, they'll have their own requirements as well too, but they are operating under risk base now as well too.
Yes.
So we're about working with your traffic management providers on the way the framework works. As long as we're happy that all the risks have been addressed and there's been controls put in place, the traffic will be what traffic management will be at the end of the day.
Rather prescriptive approach at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where you have to have X cones, X meters. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see what, if any, difference this year's Blossom Festival or these changes.
It is going to be interesting in that respect, because the hardest change is probably going to be for the people on the ground. That's the people actually doing it on the ground, because they've been doing it under that prescriptive Copton framework for 20 years now. And that's going to be difficult for them to shift that mindset. But it's up to the leadership, and both from council, but probably more so contractors as well too, to actually take their people along that journey. And I know Fulton Hogan are very conscious of that, and they will be doing a lot of work with their TTM teams and their physical works teams to transition into that new way of thinking.
Very much. To see it is for 404 nearing completion.
7 years.
And I have had some contact from a couple of the development community members who are very excited about the pre-engagement. And we are looking forward to that coming to council in August, hopefully, and getting out the consultation in September. So watch this space, but it's going to take a lot of pages out when you can do that one line. Yep. The report from the Hura Otago Museum, Rebecca shared that with us earlier as well when it came through. Any questions on anything else in the governance report?
Yeah, just the Kyburn Reserve. It's been going on for 6 years now. Still zero. I mean, I see that there's at what point we're trying to put a peg in the sand and say something needs to be done.
Just a wee bit longer.
Just a bit longer.
There are some discussions being had, so.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
It's just not that hard what they need to do. Just
come together and.
You got to remember that's very big. That community is very much volunteer based, and I'm thinking, given what we've heard from the people down here, that they are people that are usually involved in one thing or involved in many,
everything.
and that they may be just a little stretched, but it has been going for some time.
Maybe by the end of this term, we'll have a resolution. There you go. There's the challenge, David. The end of the term.
Goal.
Happy to note that the report they received and the contents noted. If I can have a seconder, thank you, Sarah. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Community Board Committee minutes begin on page 585. Anything of note there?
Taken as read.
Thank you, Marty.
Second.
Thank you, Nathan. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And then our date of the next meeting will be the 29th of July. which is just far enough away. On page 615, we have a resolution to exclude the public from the non-public aspects to cover off at the end of the day. I'm happy to move that on the basis of the reasons listed. Cheryl's happy to second that. All in favour? Carried, and we'll take a quick break for 10 minutes and then be back. Needs to be.
The audit and risk minutes.
And then on word,
26,
they're all together. It's the community board and committee minutes on my line.
At the same time.
Perfect. You happy that those are all together? Wayne?
Yeah.